Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Amber and today I'm going to share with you my monthly wrap up. So things keep changing. I told you that things would change, but I'm probably going to be only doing things on a monthly basis as I don't really feel up to doing things on a weekly basis. I don't have enough energy to keep up with that, but hopefully a monthly one will work better. So I thought how I would work it is that I would share with you my bullet journal spread, and as I go through it, do my reviews. So as this is not going to only cover books, it's going to cover films and maybe some TV shows. We'll see. So let's go over December, and then I will show you what my next month is going to look like layout wise. So just be aware that my December cover page is crap. I was trying to do a certain thing and I should have painted it like I had really wanted to, but I thought it would be cheaper to just get like a piece of cloth and do it this way. And this is just a little bit too messy for me, and the words didn't pop up. Again, paint probably would have done better. But that cover page, everything else kind of makes up for it. So then I try to do a weekly layout. I don't have much going on in my life now that I'm thinking about it to warrant this. When I was thinking of doing a weekly layout, I was gonna just release it like more of like a journal-esque type thing where I would write down what happened throughout the week and stuff like that. To keep track of the grocery list and things like that on here, which I kind of did. But the other aspect of what this was supposed to be didn't really work out for me. I just stopped halfway through writing because there's just not much to talk about. Like, my life is basically same. I go to work, I come home, I read or watch something. It's just not like there's just wasn't a lot to talk about. So the weekly layout has been nixed. I am not wasting paper on something that I am not going to use. So there's one thing. Then we go to my statistics and book read. So this is where I'll talk about the books I've read. But here we have the pages read. And then later on, we have my TBR. And like I changed to this way, which is why this halfway through I stopped, because I saw this video of this person who was reading 3 books a week and she showed how she was doing that, and I thought that I could do that too because there was a lot more structure to it and focus, and I just cannot read 3 books a week. You have to read like a certain amount of pages each day of each book. I just can't handle that. I like reading 1 book at a time, but I also know that I've been reading a certain amount of pages of each of those 2 books throughout the week. You know, I can read at least 2 books a month. So on the TBR, I read, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the TBR, but I read a little bit. I read 2 more books that were not part of this TBR, and that whole thing is nixed. So I will be going back to the page count layout in this fashion. And now onto what I read this month. So again, I think I said that I read 7 books. 3 of them were rereads. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to focus only on books that I read for the first time. I'm not going to talk about anything reread. I'll just mention them that I did that here. And I think in the next year what I'll do is because I really don't have much statistics wise because I wasn't keeping track of a lot of things this past year. But I'm hoping that because of this bullet journal, I'll have more statistics. I'll be able to do this. So I think what I want to do for video wise when it comes to end of the year things is I want to share what I reread. Then I will share all the books that I've read that year, and then my least liked and my favorites of the year type thing. So I'm hoping that that will work out better. I also do not have any reading goals this year because I just don't want to focus on that. I mean, I have 2 kind of things that I am slightly working on, but I do not want to mention them on my channel because if it doesn't work out, then I don't feel guilty about it in a way. Because I know I had so many goals and I can't remember, and I don't feel like listening to myself talk about all these grand goals that I supposedly had. So I only have 2 things this year, and we shall see, because I know that I can do it if I keep up with my momentum. But anyways, the first book that I read this month was a book that I owned. I had just bought, and as soon as I read it, I gave it away. And that is You Will Know Me by Megan Abbott. This is a thriller mystery book, and it's about this family. I forget all their names. I am sorry, but it's a very predictable book to me. And hold on, my dog is eating something. Okay, so this is about a husband and a wife who have 2 children. The oldest, who is their daughter, she is a gymnast prodigy, and at the beginning of the book, they're working really hard to get her into the elite squad or whatever, the one that's like right before where you would be actually working to get onto the Olympic team type thing. And she's training in this one place, and there's this boy that works there, and a tragic accident happens and this boy dies, and it affects all of them, and their plans kind of get sidetracked. And the mother, who is the narrator of this book, is trying to keep her family together, trying to keep things on track, trying to get things back on track, I should say, while she ends up feeling like she is getting more involved in what in the world did actually happen to this boy. It's a really quick and really fast read, and I enjoyed that because it helped me get back into my reading. So I did give it a higher rating when I first finished it because of that, because it helped me get my momentum back, and it helped me to have that drive to read again. But you have all these clues and reveals in like almost in the first 50 pages, and those clues and hints and slight reveals were just too revealing and too obvious. So I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew where this book was going, and it was just a little bit disappointing. And I think a lot of that could have been made up for if the characters were more well developed. You have the wife, who's the narrator, and I didn't even feel like I got to know her all that well. There's barely any character development with her, and you would think that there'd be at least more development with the person who's actually narrating the story, but all I get is that she is super determined to get her kid to the Olympics no matter what the cost is. Then you have the husband and then the daughter, and the husband and the daughter are really the other 2 main players of this story and the mystery. And so you would think that she would develop them out more, give them a voice. We have the daughter's voice here and there, but not enough for me to really understand what kind of person she was. And the husband doesn't get a voice at all. And so you don't really get to understand them. And that's something that I really enjoy in books, is character development and seeing what these people are really like and what are their motives. I want to be able to feel something for them, and I couldn't feel anything for even the narrator of this book. So cardboard characters, lack of subtlety in the reveals, and then we have the ending of this book. You have this supposedly big, huge reveal about what really happened to the boy. And I mean, I saw that a mile away, so it wasn't all that surprising. And then we have the ending, which it didn't even feel like an ending. It just felt like we went right back to the beginning of the book. There is no cause and effect in this book at all. We have the reveal, but it doesn't really affect the family. It doesn't really affect their plans. It doesn't affect them at all. It's just like nothing actually ever happened. And that is the reality of the book. Nothing happened in it. It was just a lot of nonsense. And I felt like I had really wasted 2.5 days reading something that didn't have any real effect on anything. Like, there was just nothing there. So I did start off with a 3-star rating because it was quick, it was easy, and again, like I said, it got me back into reading. But the reality is it gets a 1.5 stars. Also, on a side note, I can't really say this for sure, but I've heard several people I read several reviews talking about this, and that is that Megan Abbott doesn't know squat about gymnastics. A lot of things that she talks about, she makes up. And that is a huge issue for me, especially if this is true, because that means that she just was lazy and wasn't willing to do the research and make sure that what she was talking about she knew. So that's really, really disappointing to me. So I don't think I'll ever read anything by her again. I've heard a lot of mixed things about her, but I felt like there were several books by her that people actually liked, and that's why I decided to pick her up. But I can't deal with that kind of laziness, because that's just, it's wrong, because you're just making up a lot of things and making your readers think that you're knowing what you're talking about. And then, so anyways, then I borrowed from the library To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is about Lara Jean, who has written these love notes to boys that she has crushes on, but never been able to actually tell these guys her actual feelings. So she just writes them and hides them in this hat box, and she never expected for them to get out, but one day they actually do get out, and craziness kind of ensues when as her sister is dating one of the boys that she wrote a letter to, and so she ends up fake dating with this other guy who's trying to get back get back at his ex. And after Lara Jean kind of kisses him to make it out, like the other guy, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here in that sense, but she ends up in a fake relationship to protect her older sister from the fact that at one point Lara Jean had a crush on her boyfriend. And the guy that she ends up in a fake relationship, Peter, is trying to get back at his ex. And yeah, I watched the Netflix film. I really enjoyed it. They did change some not really big things, but specifically with the sister, when I found out, not the older sister, the younger sister, I should say, when I found out the reveal of who actually did this, I mean, it's pretty obvious who did send out the letters. I mean, there's just no way that it couldn't be. So if you do not want to be spoiled on this, just skip ahead a couple of minutes. But Lara Jean's younger sister is the one that sends out the notes. I mean, it's pretty obvious, again, that it had to be either the older sister or the younger sister, even more so that it was the younger sister. In the film, they make it out like she sent them out of kindness, that she thought that Lara Jean needed to get out of her shell and just, be more social, have more friends, etc. And she thought that this would be a way for her to actually start getting out there. But in the book, Lara Jean's younger sister is just a complete spoiled brat who decided to send out the letters out of meanness because Lara Jean did something that really wasn't that big of a deal. Like she said something that slightly hurt her feelings, and she blew it out of proportion and sent the letters out. So that was a big issue for me in the book. I really did not like her younger sister for that, and I think that is why they changed her motivations in the film, which I am glad that they did, because I probably wouldn't have liked this film as much if I had known if that had been the thing that drove her to doing that. But overall, the book is light, fluff, and it was fun. But everybody goes on about how, and I'm not even sure if I got the name of her fake love interest real, right? Peter, he is a bit of a jerk, like a low-key jerk, but he's not outwardly awful or anything. But throughout the book, I just couldn't understand why Lara Jean like him. And everybody that I've heard who likes this book just raves about how great Peter is, how he's this sweet boy. And I'm like, well, just because he's kind to her younger sister doesn't make him that great of a guy. It doesn't mean that there is any real reason for these two to be together. There was nothing throughout the book that made me think that they actually were compatible with each other in any shape or form. Throughout the whole book, the entirety of this book, he was just trying to get back at his ex, and is like, yeah, maybe he liked hanging out with Lara Jean, but that was about it. And it was just really annoying how the author seemed to be struggling to find actual reasons for why Peter is a great boyfriend for Lara Jean. And even Lara Jean herself, every time somebody would ask, like, why do you like Peter? And they were very serious about it. They wanted to know. She couldn't even express why she liked him. And even at the end of the book, when she realizes that she likes Peter, again, no real understanding of why she does. She can't express it. She can't give you a good, solid reason. It's all mumble jumble, and I'm like really confused. And like everybody who likes this book seems to think that Peter is a great boyfriend, because the author and Lara Jean could not give me a real reason for why Peter is a good enough boyfriend for her. So I did kind of also find it problematic that we're supposed to be okay with a relationship that starts off in a kind of a manipulative way. Like, he kind of manipulated her into this fake relationship because he knew that she didn't want her older sister finding out about the notes, and that she didn't want the other guy to think that she had feelings for him. And he knew that, and he played on that to get her to help him get back with his. So it's just a little bit of a problem there for me. So I did like the film better, and I gave this book 3 stars. Then I borrowed from another book, and that was The Roundhouse by Louis Erdrich. This is set in 1988. I think it's North Dakota. One of the North Dakotas on a reservation, and this boy's mother is attacked, and he ends up having to grow up faster because of it. She isolates herself, and they're trying to find out who did it, but there's a lot of issues around that, and because they don't know where exactly it happened, and she's not ready to talk about it yet. And so the father, who is a reservation judge, he tries to go through the law and fights for it that way, and the son tries to kind of investigate. I absolutely fell for this book. I've been trying to find this book to buy, but I haven't been able to, and I probably could buy it at Barnes & Noble, but I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. But Joe is this really sweet boy who is just so desperate to get his mom back. And I was so sucked into his story and his life. And the one thing that I think is that the synopsis is a little misleading. It says that Joe goes off to investigate his mother's attack. But the reality is that kind of happens, but that's barely a thing. He finds a lot of the information from his father and just from him doing his investigations, and he kind of helps him out there in that sense. But overall, I don't really feel like it wasn't the way I thought it was going to be when they said that that Joel was going to be investigating this whole thing. And so I just wasn't going for that. But we see him trying to live his life, yet struggling because of the fact that his mother, who is such a huge part of his life, has basically disappeared from it. And the fact that his father is so wrapped up in trying to seek justice in his own way, he's kind of left on to his own devices, and we see that struggle throughout the whole book. I did wonder why the child was a boy. And that's not negative or positive. I was just curious as to why maybe she didn't make the child a girl at some points, because sometimes I wondered how realistic her portrayal of a boy was. But at the same time, I think that I understand the motivations behind that. Certain things that are dealt with throughout the book maybe wouldn't have been so impactful if the child was a girl. So there's that. I did feel like the writing was a little bit choppy. The sentences were just too short, and there just wasn't enough there in the sentences. I like flowing, smooth writing, and this was just a little bit too jagged and sharp and just, again, choppy. But she was able to grab your attention, to suck you into the story, and she developed all the characters out so well that you felt like you got to know them. And I was so hooked by the dilemma that this family had when it came to the law. There was, I can't even believe that this is real and that this is things that they're still struggling with when it comes to the law. And it's hard because I don't have the book with me, so I'm not going to talk about what I'm thinking of because I'm not sure I can articulate it right. But it's like they have this sense of having no power to seek justice in the courts because of this certain thing that went through. And again, I'm not going to go fully out with it. It's just that it's really upsetting because I never knew this. I thought that even though they're on reservations, that they had the right to address it. It's like they should be able to have their own government in a sense. If they're being shunted off in these reservations, it's like, come on. It's so frustrating and unfair, and this whole thing makes it really hard for them to know how to get justice for what happened to his mother. And then we have the ending, which I did feel it was a little bit abrupt. It happened way too fast. There's so many things, and some of it I feel like it could have ended like 5 pages earlier, and a lot of the things, some of what happened after really didn't make sense. I didn't really understand why we needed those things at all. And there was a sort of reveal that happens that was just a little bit too obvious, and that is something that happens throughout. I always felt like there was a little bit of a mystery going on, and she didn't really handle it all that well if she was trying to make it into like a mystery aspect in that sense. She didn't do it really well because a lot of the things that are revealed and hinted at throughout the book were just a bit too obvious, and I knew where it was leading because of it. So there's that. But overall, this story was so powerful and it really impacted me, and certain things that I learned from this book is really upsetting. It's something that I've always struggled with because I don't want to lessen what another group has gone through, but I feel like the indigenous people of America have been gypped. Their stories were always changed. My dad said when I was talking to him about this, that they are the ghost people of America, and that is so true. We barely hear anything about their stories. We don't have enough information. We don't hear anything about their struggle, and they went through enslavement too. And I'm not trying to lessen out the fact that the black population of America has gone through hell and are being shitted on even today, but so are the Native Americans of this country, and I feel like that their story should be just as much heard from as theirs. And in another book that was nonfiction that I read, they talked about how it was like this competition between these two groups about who had more of a right to equality. And I'm like, what the hell is with that? You both have equal rights to it. Why can't they just combine their efforts and seek justice for both of their groups? It's like you both are going through hell and you're treated like shit. So like, why not? I don't understand this whole thing. I can't understand it. And it's really frustrating because I want to hear more from their story, yet we don't get as much. It's one thing if they purposely are being like, we don't really want to have our stories out there. I respect that. But if they want their stories out there and we're hiding their stories and we're not giving them as much space to tell their stories, then that is an issue. And so it's really disheartening to me to feel like there is, as my dad said, a ghost people here in this country, and their struggle is not being taken on as much as other people's struggles throughout this country. So that being said, I gave this book 4.5 stars. Absolutely recommend it. Would highly say go and read this book. Go out there and find books and that talk about their stories, because their stories deserve it, and I feel like they don't get enough attention. That's the last thing I will say about that. We have one more book, and then we can move on. And that is One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. And this is the 50th anniversary edition, and it's by Alexander, I cannot pronounce his name. But this is about how during World War II, a dutiful Russian soldier is wrongfully convicted of treason and sentenced to 10 years in a Siberian labor camp. So you get to experience one day of his life, and this is 139 pages, and in those 139 pages, you feel like you get to know Ivan, you understand what happened to him, what his day is like, and it was amazing how well he was able to flesh out this one day. I mean, 139 pages, I guess, is technically good enough, long enough for one day, but still, it, with everything that goes on, I'm sure there's a lot more that he could have said, but it still felt really fleshed out, like he understood from the moment that he woke up to the moment that he laid back down what he was going through, the struggles of just surviving this labor camp. But that being said, I didn't really feel like I got anything new out of this book. I guess I was expecting something a little different, a little bit more, because of the fact that I've never read anything that dealt with Russian labor camps, and I thought maybe it'd be a little bit different because it's Russian and not German. So I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was thinking that I would get a different perspective on labor camps. I guess there isn't really a different perspective, but I don't know how to express it. It's just that everything from the way that it's written, from what happens throughout this book, I felt like I've read that before. And that is not really a negative to this book, because that's just because I've read a lot about labor camps. I've always focused on, you know, Auschwitz and Birkenau, and I think I pronounced that wrong. There's like all these labor camps and concentration camps that were in Germany that I focused on. So I guess I was putting a little bit something more about the Russian politics. I wanted to hear more on that. I thought I was going to get a little bit of that through this one day, but I didn't really feel like I got that. And instead I just got what was a predictable day of a labor camp. And he even says somewhere in this book, I have it highlighted somewhere, and I think that like that's the whole point here, is like how each day is all the same, like time just stops in a labor camp. I think I found it. It says, that was something he'd often noticed. The days rolled by in the camp, they were over before you could say knife, but the years, they never rolled by. They never moved by a second. So I guess in that way, that was what his purpose was in this book, was to show how each day for them was the same, a constant, never moving kind of thing. And in that way, it was a superb book. I would recommend this book, especially for somebody who hasn't read a lot in this subject matter because it's short, and so it's a great introduction to that subject. And again, it's part of history. I think it's something that we need to remember and keep in mind, especially with things that are going on today. And that's all I'm going to say. But I did give this 3 stars. And again, I do recommend it, even with that 3-star rating. So those were the books. Then we have we have the films, TV shows, and then I had a mood tracker. And I, again, will be mixing this because I realized that moods, there's just so many layers to them as I was trying to figure out what my mood was for the day. And so I think there's just too many shades to moods, and I just don't have the energy to try to encompass all of them, and I just got tired of that. So that's being next. I did think it would be interesting to see like what would be the predominant mood of the month through it, but again, it just wasn't working, and there's just too many layers and too many things that it could possibly be. So there's that. But we're going to talk about the movies that I watched this month. I'm not really going to talk about the TV shows. No, was what it was. But I rewatched 2 films, Rotten Tomatoes and Les Mis, and then I watched for the first time 3 films. The first one is Skyscraper, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I'm not going to talk about what these are really. If you do not know what they are, you can go look them up. But I did not like Skyscraper. I gave it 2 stars. It was predictable. It was a really poor and shoddy job. I really felt sad that Dwayne Johnson's name was put on this, was connected to this film because it just did not work for me. Everything, like, I like action films, and even when it can be a little bit predictable, usually I can enjoy them because they're fun, they're exciting, and you're just waiting to see what's going to happen next kind of thing. But in this one, everything just felt a little bit too heavy-handed and just a little too obvious, and it was just a clunky film for me. So sadly, again, I give it 2 stars. Then we have In the Valley of Allah. The stars Tommy Lee Jones and Charlize Theron. I really like these 2 together in this film. I liked the kind of like the older and younger dynamic that was going on there, and like he was the more experienced, she was the rookie, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the perspectives they had and how that kind of affected how they were trying to work together in this way. I also really liked the perspective on PTSD, and that was a very interesting part of the film, but I did feel like this film lacked a little bit more of movement. I wasn't really sure how much of it was true. I mean, I get they were trying to probably focus on the truth, and that was probably why it was so hard, because there's just not a lot you can work with when you're trying to stick close to the truth. So kind of lacked a little bit of creativity in that sense. And I don't know, I just didn't really find it all that interesting throughout the story, and the PTSD aspect of this film I thought was interesting. But overall, it just didn't hold my attention as much as I would have liked. It's not a bad film, but it wasn't something that I fully enjoyed either. Then the last film that I watched this month, and I watched it twice, it's still in the theaters, and that is Mary Poppins Returns. I really was not expecting myself to watch this. I really didn't think I would, because I really loved the first Mary Poppins with Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. I love them. I love that film. I love the music. I just was not expecting anything from this film. And when I first heard that there was going to be a Mary Poppins film, I thought it was going to be a remake, so I was a little bit peeved off by that. And then I realized that it was going to be a sequel type thing, and I eased off on my anger. But I just feel like there's just nothing new out there. Like, everything that's coming out lately is either remakes. Like, Disney is doing all these live action remakes of their Disney animated films, and although I enjoy them, I really do, I do feel like I'm getting tired of seeing the same old. Like, remakes are fine, but it's like, do you not have any new ideas? Is this why you're doing these remakes? Because seriously, do something new, do something different, move on. We don't really need all these remakes. And I'm a little bit peeved that all the things that are coming out that are remakes of anime films are the one thing that I don't they're all, everything that's coming out is not the one thing that I was hoping that they would do, which is a live action remake of Mulan. They did Beauty and the Beast. I would have loved Mulan, and I haven't heard anything to tell me that they are going to actually do it, because they talked about doing Mulan around the same time that they talked about doing Lion King, and Lion King is here. We saw the freaking trailer, and where the hell is Mulan? I want Mulan. And I'm just really peeved because it just feels, again, it's another, yeah. But anyways, back to Mary Poppins. Again, I wasn't really expecting anything from this film, but I really enjoyed it so much that I went back and rewatched it a second time. I loved it. I loved the music. I loved Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel Miranda in this. I just couldn't get enough of it. I felt like they modernized it enough to grab the younger audience, you know, and yet they kept that traditional feel, the magic of the first film, that the older audience would still enjoy it. I feel like I tried to get both my parents to go see this with me because of that. I wanted to see what they would think, but my mom can't really sit in the theaters anymore, and my dad wasn't really interested, which is probably because which is the same reason why I probably wasn't going to watch it. But I'm curious. There was many older people in the audience that were on the older side, and they seemed to be all enjoying it. So I do think that it holds up to the original film. I thought, like, you could see so many nods, and sometimes they were a little bit too obvious, I will admit, but I loved those nods to the original film. Like, you could hear certain musical elements that were from the first film, and certain things that they said or did, you know, were nods to the original. And I appreciated that they were trying to respect the original film by giving those nods. But again, they were a bit obvious, I will admit that. The dialogue, there's certain things that are a little bit on the too cheesy side, which grated on me, but I loved it. It made me smile from the beginning to the end. I enjoyed the story. I just, it warmed my heart all the way, and it's a really cold month, so it was really nice to rewatch it and be warm at the same time. So it gets 5 stars. So we're going to be moving on to January. I already showed you. So the next 2 pages in my December, again, these are things that I am not going to continue on. I wanted to do a quote page. I thought that would be nice. And then I tried to keep track of my habits, but I just couldn't keep up with it. It was frustrating. And I was like I would try to do it in the morning. So I was like, well, you can't do it at the same day because I don't know why. But I just couldn't keep up with it. Nonsense. So these 2 are getting next. So there is all of my December. Then we have my yearly layout for 2019. Holy crap, we are already in 2019 and I can't believe it. So I'm just keeping track of my certain things that are coming in throughout the year, birthdays, holidays that I want to remember. I don't want to share that one, but we have my A to Z challenge, which is one of the 2 things that I wanted to keep. That is one of my yearly goals this year. But why I have this instead of that, I started out thinking that I would have all the books that I wanted to read that I haven't gotten a chance to either read or borrow or buy or anything, and that have been on my list for quite some time, and that was what I was gonna do. But then in the past 2 months I've bought like a lot of books. I thought it'd be better to use the books I have on my shelf for this challenge, so I got the majority of them, but there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books here that I will have to end up borrowing from the library or buy at some point, but I wanted to focus on my own TBR, so to complete this challenge, I think the next time I do an AZC challenge, I'm going to use a theme for it. So now there isn't really much of a theme. It's just me trying to see if I can read books A to Z this year. But next year, or maybe if I finish this at the halfway point, I will do a different kind of A to Z challenge. We shall see. And then instead of keeping track of how many books I read each month in the monthly, I'm going to be keeping track of it here. There's nothing really special about this page, but hopefully I can line them all up and it'll go through there. What I probably will be doing is I will be highlighting in 2 different colors, my favorite and my least favorite. So at the end of the year, there'll be a little bit more color on this page. I've already read a book this month and finished it, so there's that. And then we have my cover page, which I really enjoy. I did mess up the hello as part of it, as you can see. And then I have my bill checker, which should have been on this page and this should have been on that page, but I got tired of erasing things and I just kept it here. So that's why there's a little tag here to remind me that this is my yearly layout. And then throughout the month, I have taken several pages out to do my reviews. So I was a little bit frustrated with the fact that I wasn't able to keep track of my reviews through my December one, and I had to like separate them. I thought I would do like the sticky notes thing, as you probably saw, but I just didn't like that. So I have it all fleshed out here, several pages worth. If I am able to finish all of these reviews out in the month and still have space, which I'm not thinking I'm going to. Not that I'm thinking of it. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll probably do like a monthly wrap up of what my month was like, life-wise, not book-wise. But then we have my TBR. Again, I thought I was going to try to read 3 books. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to white out some things. And then I have to correct the TBR out to reflect my change in my A to Z challenge. But everything else is kind of like on track of where I am in my. Then I already have the pages. That's what I'm going to be doing this month. And then we have movies and TV shows. I probably should put Mary Poppins Returns on this one because I think we watched it again in January. Then my menu planning for each week. And then the last thing we have here to talk about is my statistics. So that is basically all of what my months will be looking like at the end of the month for January. But yeah, I'm really liking what this new month looks like. The only thing I'm upset about is these snowman stickers that I got, because they kind of like look. I mean, it's not a big deal, but at the same time, I didn't realize it was going to make my pages stick out that much. And it's a little bit of a nuisance for me. So other than that, it's a whatever situation. So if you read or watched any of the things that I've talked about today, I would love to hear what you thought of them. Yeah, I just really lost myself. But I would love to hear from you what you thought of them. We'll talk with you down below. And I hope you've had a happy New Year's, a Merry Christmas, and all of the other holidays that you may celebrate. That you've been safe and warm, unlike me, because I am freezing right now. So I am going to go, and I'll see you in the next one.